Miracles happen every day. They truly happen every day if you're willing to see them.
Yeah.
We have this vision of who we're going to become and the type of success we're going to have. And sadly, folks get so caught up in living that dream and they get lost in the process. Life is an adventure that's meant to be lived. It's not meant to be survived. When you truly live your journey, you take the risks that you're presented with. You become more. People choose to work with us because they resonate with us, but they're not going to resonate with us unless we show up. So we need to show up so they can see that we're here.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm the managing partner at Epiphany Business Consulting, and I will be your host. In our studio today, we have Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville. Martin, just emphasizing that South Boston accent. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So glad to have you here. And if let's get started. Dr. Dorothy, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you help people.
I am an executive leadership coach. I support people in their companies and to really succeed by having the leader be fully present.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so often the leaders I work with, they have become highly successful. And in the process of becoming highly successful, they've lost sight of what their values were, what the motivation was. They've lost sight of who they are.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how we can start a business. And not everybody I work with is an entrepreneur, but we can start a business or start in a career. And we have this vision, we have this image of who we're going to become and the type of success we're going to have. And sadly, not unfrequently, folks get so caught up in living that dream and that vision that once it becomes a success, they get caught up in success.
Yeah.
And they forget the dream, they forget the vision, and they get lost in the process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether you're making 30,000 a year or 30 million a year, if you don't exist in your life and you're just going to work, you've
Yeah. Yeah.
lost the real value of the journey. Success doesn't mean anything if you're on your third or fourth wife and she doesn't like you and your kids don't like you and you're not happy or feeling filled and you're not bringing your best self to the people you work with or you work for. And
Yep.
I think that's a huge loss. There's been a real huge step in self-betrayal there. So I work to bring folks back to that soul that got lost, to that embodied heart and soul that's really meant to make this journey a much better place.
Wow. Wow. Sending out that rescue. I love that. I love that. While you were talking, I was just thinking about athletes. We've had a number of conversations about folks that, they're totally wrapped up in their career. Baseball, it's
Right.
just, I'm a baseball player, and they eat,
Yeah.
sleep, everything baseball, and
Yeah.
it sounds like the same exact conversation. When they retire, it's like, people like you come in and have to kind of help them figure out, what their lives are about, who they are beyond, baseball or whatever that is. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How'd you get started in this?
What I did is I've had blessed to have founded 5 companies myself. And I had a number of employees at one of my companies. When I took my youngest up to college, I had two kids, and my daughter was graduating from Georgetown, and I realized once the kids go to school, you're no longer mommy, you become ma, and it's ma. I need money for ma. Could you send me a check? And ma, could I? And it's like, all right. But I loved having the soccer team over because everybody was dying of starvation after a game, and you order pizzas and you make chicken wings and you make burgers and I loved that kind of thing. And so when I took my youngest up to Cornell and dropped him off, and it was a 6-hour car ride home to where we lived in West Hartford at the time, and just sobbing because I knew being a mommy was over, and I loved that role. That I pulled into my house, and poured like a good Irish girl a large glass of red wine and just sat down and thought, all right, where are you going to go with the rest of your life? And realized that by the world's standards, I was
Mhm.
highly successful. I was seeing 42 patients a week as a psychologist. I had a
Yeah.
school I had founded with hundreds of students in the school, teaching a method of energy medicine I had created. And I had a nonprofit that theoretically I was highly successful. And yet I realized sitting in the silence in this huge home that was empty like a cave, that I was very unhappy
Yeah.
and thought, I don't know when that happened. I was so busy just loving being a mom that I never thought of me as anything but a mom with it's almost like I didn't even see myself as a businesswoman. I was just a woman who had businesses.
Mhm.
And that's a very
Interesting.
different identification, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden here I am. I am this businesswoman in this huge home by myself, realizing I don't I don't really feel the least bit happy. And I could sell this and get a smaller house, I could get a condo, I could rent an apartment, but none of those would really do it. And so for me, before that glass of wine was finished, I called American Airlines and said, "Get me a one-way ticket to Anguilla. I'm moving to the British West Indies, to a little country that had 6,000 people at the time and was 32 square miles."
Mm.
Called an agent, said, "Put my house in the market. I'm leaving the country," and notified my office to refer my patients out because I was moving away, and I lived on this small little island for 10 years.
Wow.
And I don't think that everybody needs to do something that dramatic. But I knew that by stepping away, I would rediscover the woman that I lost somewhere along the journey to this success. And in doing so, discovered my passion, rediscovered my vibrancy, rediscovered the values that I never truly lost, but I didn't spend a lot of time on because
Mhm.
I was so busy being successful.
Mhm.
And I truly believe that our careers, our life journey is we teach what we came here to learn. That in business, if you will, the terminology is we are our avatar. We are the person we need to work with because our life lessons have taught us so much that we're here to teach the life lessons we've learned and the life lessons we're learning because we're not done learning till we go home. We're always in process. We're always growing. God willing, we're always growing. We're always becoming. And so for me, it made such sense to support others who may have had far more success than I. They've made hundreds of millions or they've made whatever they've made, but they're realizing the price they paid to get there, that they got lost in the process.
So how does I mean, it sounds I mean, it sounds really challenging, when I think about it. It's like, it's and, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you're pouring into this business, that you're building or these businesses that you're building. And, it's one of those things where, the phone's going to ring at 10 o'clock at night because something happened, or there's always going to be something. I mean, how does one, moving towards that stage or in that state, really move out of it, move into that place where they're, really having that journey that you're talking about?
Well, for myself, I did this before we had the concept of coaches. Back in those days, the only coaches around was sports coaches, baseball
Mhm.
coaches, soccer coaches, and so forth. Now we have coaches. So now, when somebody says to me, I was at a conference in Dallas this past weekend, and somebody says, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "I work with highly successful leaders who are recognizing the price they paid for success." He said, "Oh, that's me. What do you do?" I said, I bring those folks back to their heart and their soul, back to the passion and the vision they had for their lives,
Yeah.
because it's not lost. It's just forgotten. It's just disconnected from." And he said, "Could we talk?" We couldn't in the midst of all of that, but we since have met and done a Zoom call, and he's thinking, God willing, I'll be working with him to bring him back to the person that got lost. And he wants to expand his businesses nationally. And he's got 4 companies. He wants to expand some nationally and some globally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to help him do that. And to help him do that with all of who he is, not with just that drive, because we can get so caught up in forging ahead that we forget there's a human that's doing this. There's somebody, it's not just a machine that's pushing head forward, that a
Yeah.
human who's bringing his gifts that he's developed to the world, you
Interesting.
know?
Is is there a scenario where that drive is all that a person wants? It's like I've seen scenarios where, people worked and they worked and they worked and worked, and when they, retired, they basically died. They didn't really have
You're right. You're
what
right.
is that about?
Well, what happens in depending upon what your motivator is. For
Mhm.
some, the motivator is like myself, they came from, I grew up in an orphanage and then in the housing projects in the inner city. And for some, that drive is, I am going to be successful if it kills me. I'm going to prove I'm good enough. I'm going to prove I can do this. I'm going to prove I'm worthy. Whatever the words are that they tell themselves, right?
Yeah.
And for some others, they're highly competitive and they're going to make more than others they know. They're going to succeed more than others in it, whatever it is for them.
Right.
And then for some, they've just got to be the best. In order to be good enough, they have to be the best. And so their drive is to be the best without realizing they already are. They may not be the best in their industry, but if they're already the best they're capable of being as humans, and they want to perfect their skill, whether it's in sports or in
Mhm.
business or in ministry, it doesn't matter what it is, all right? That I want to be the best, that competitive edge will always find somebody else who's either better or getting as good as they are. And then there's a compulsion to keep rushing. And then that compulsion is what pushes them to narrow their vision so much so that they forget all the other people in their lives. They forget all the other parts of them that aren't that business person, that aren't that athlete, that aren't that whatever it may be, you know? Um, and they get lost. We're frozen. All right, are you back?
Yeah. I'm back.
Yeah, you disappeared there.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Welcome to humanity.
Right. I missed the end of what you were saying. You were describing how there are people that have different drives, and you talked
Right,
about the ability to really start to narrow their vision. And I
right.
gathered you were saying like really focus on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, where they become the vision becomes so narrow that if they're competitive, let's say it could be any one of the examples I gave. I don't know how much we lost in the translation there, but let's just say I want to be the best uh, football player, baseball player, or the best in business. I want to make more money than everybody I know, or be more successful than everybody I know, or more successful than anybody thought I was capable of. Right? Then the focus becomes solely on that success, on being the best, on being the greatest. And when
Right.
that becomes your soul, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be the best I can be, and maybe the best if I'm highly competitive, the best in my industry.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
difference is when the price you pay to achieve that level of success is that you lose touch with everybody in your life and you lose touch with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the price you end up paying is your emotional, spiritual, and physical health.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And
That's
that's an extremely high price to pay. We can
that
be the
is.
best at our industry because we take care of ourselves. If you're an athlete or a business person, it doesn't really matter. We can be the best in the industry for us because no matter who we are, there's always going to be somebody else who's either better or getting better. But if we can be the very best we're capable of being, and it may for a period of time be the best in our industry, congratulations on you. And to me, the true success is when whatever relationships you're in, they're working, that you are taking care of yourself. You're not taking more pills to have more energy to work 20 hours a week, and you're taking more pills in order to be more alert during those 20 hours. And you're not eating well, you're not sleeping, you're not bringing in time for for meditation, for relationships, for just stopping.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
can go at that drive, um, we can go at that drive for a period of time. I've got finals coming up. And for the next month, all I'm doing is studying, and that's it. Well, then you go and you go there. And let's hope nobody bothers you, nobody calls, everybody lets you for a month. Just go and prepare for those finals or prepare for that. My licensure, I have to get licensed in whatever my industry is. Well, then take a month of
Mhm.
closing out the world. But that's a period of time. That's not a lifestyle.
Mhm. Mhm.
When the lifestyle is for 15 years, I got no time for nothing but this. Then you've lost you in the process, you know, and the price becomes too high. Like you said, those sports folks who they're the best in their industry or their team is winning all the awards, whether it's MVP and then they get winning the Super Bowl, they're winning whatever.
Mhm.
What happens when they retire?
Yeah.
They don't have a self. They don't have a life.
Yeah.
They're lost. And they may have had 3 or 4 wives. They may have had any number of children, and the kids don't talk to them.
Mhm.
And the ex-wives don't like them, and they've lost touch with their brothers and sisters. Their friendships were all on the team, and now they
Mhm.
have no friends either.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they don't have themselves because they don't know who they are, because they identified as the player. They didn't identify as a human who's playing, and it's dramatically different.
Interesting. Interesting. You had talked before earlier about like, being the best in your industry versus
Right,
being the best for yourself,
right,
and so it's like in either in either camp, I mean, you're still striving, you
right.
know, but it sounds as though you're saying that, well, you said, there's more components of self than sometimes we're aware of. So how do we get, how do we change that focus? It's like, we're running this company, and then we have to continue to run the company, but at the same time, kind of pivot a little bit to say, okay, I'm going to be the best version of for myself, for my family, for my friends, et cetera, et cetera. How do we kind of make that mind shift?
Well, my bias at this point in time is you bring in a coach who recognizes those issues. You
Hmm.
bring in a coach who's done that work on his or herself, you
Yeah.
know, who's recognized it themselves. Because to have somebody who can see you from the 30,000-foot view allows you to see things in a very different way than when you are so narrowly focused. That 30,000-foot view frees you to see a huge perspective, to see it, a much more integrated way.
Yeah.
But without a coach, there's one, first you have to acknowledge that which can be hard to do. You've got to acknowledge that you got lost. You have to acknowledge that you're realizing I'm highly successful and really unhappy,
Hmm.
or I'm
Hmm.
highly successful and they're my companies, whether I have 1 or 5, but I hate going to work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, then where's the success? Is the success simply the money? Is it the success that you have all these numbers of people working for you? Or is the success that you're loving your life? And in loving your life, you have all of these things. And none of us love every aspect of our job. I don't care who we are.
Sure.
It may be the paperwork end that you don't like to deal with, or it may be the accounting end you don't like to deal with. But we all have little pieces, and that's where you bring people in that are better at it than you are. And those people that are better at whatever element of your career that you don't like, you pay them to do that piece of it, when as much as you can. But we're all confronted with parts of our jobs that we don't like, parts of our lives that we don't like, and we deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Welcome
Absolutely.
to the human experience. And having somebody who can be there for you and support you and noticing, hey, you realize you told me this was your value, but you just made that statement. Hey, do you realize you said you're working towards this and yet you just committed? It's those folks who say to me, I've got too much on my plate. I think I'm going to sign up to be on that board.
Hmm.
Why on earth would you be on that board if you've got too much on your plate? And I've got nothing against that board. But if you're going to
Mhm.
go there, what are you going to let go of over here
Mhm. Mhm.
so that you can do that? And it's so let's, sometimes we need somebody who has the ability to say, whoa, you're contradicting so. You're contradicting what you just said. What's your truth? Because if you have too much on your plate, don't take on another board. Sit back for a moment and look at which one or two boards over here you want to let go of, or one or two things you're doing over here that you want to let go of. Because being on that board could be really beneficial to you personally or to your business.
Yeah.
But what are you going to let go of to do that? Because you've just said you've got too much on your plate. And if you can't identify that yourself, bringing somebody in who can help you identify that allows you to stay more in alignment with who you truly want to be and how you want to live your life.
Mm. Mm. That makes sense. That makes sense. How do you I mean, I guess people get along, values, beliefs, and all that good stuff. How do you what is that process like to find the right coach? I mean, there's lots of them out there, you know?
There are lots of them out there, and there are lots of them that are very good at selling you
Yes.
to work with them. And then you do and realize, what on earth have I done? I'm light years more advanced than the coach I brought in the area I want help with.
Mhm.
And yeah, part of it is you need to learn to be discerning. And word of mouth is a wonderful, wonderful way to do that. In all my businesses, word of mouth is always the best. All right. But if
Mhm.
not, speak to them. And if they're not willing to give you an hour to get to know them, there's a whole lot they're not willing to let you see. So speak to them, spend some time getting to know who they are, research them. Do they have a YouTube channel? Do they have a LinkedIn profile? Do they have a website? And once you've done some research and then you've spoken to them, does their value system seem to match mine? Does their worldview seem to match mine? Is this somebody who has the strength to hold me accountable while at the same time the compassion to understand my journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
On my website, I have a quote from one of my clients, and all my other clients have laughed and said, "Boy, does she sit you to a T?" And it says, "She holds your heart while she kicks your ass." And what that really means is that there's never an ounce of judgment. None of us are perfect. We've all done things we later say, "What on earth was I thinking?" Welcome to humanity, right?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
there's not an ounce of judgment. Simultaneously, when you tell me that you're no good at what you do, and I know that you've got a wall of awards, which one of us are you lying to? Because
Mhm.
it's not me.
Yeah.
You're darn good at what you do. You may feel like a failure today for whatever reason,
Yeah.
but let's step back and do a reality check, buddy, because you're pretty darn good at what you do. So something's going on. What is it? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because there's a story here you've created, and in that story, you're a loser. So let's step back and look at the story and why you're using it. Where did that come from? And and if your coach can't hold you accountable and hold the mirror up for you to see it, they're not really capable of working with you.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%. With one of the other things that you shared with me was the concept of life as a journey. And I remember, as a younger person, that
Yeah.
idea, and it's just like, let's go, go, go. And I wonder how practical that is, for most people, to look at it like, so it's like, these are things that I have to go through in order to get to that next step, or these are the things I have to experience, or, whatever that looks like. I mean, what does that mean to you, and how do you apply that when you're working with your clients?
I truly believe life is a journey, which is why that's the place I come from, is that the person we were 10 or 15, 20 years ago
Hmm.
is not the person we are today, God willing. You know, in that process of the journey we have walked, we've developed wisdom. Some of that wisdom came because of ways we betrayed ourselves. Some of that
Mm.
wisdom came because we can learn by watching others. Some of that wisdom came through the silence when we take time to walk in silence. Some people do that by running. They do a lot of inner work while they're running. Some do inner work while they're working out. Some just do inner work by sitting in silence. There's all kinds of wisdom we develop that calls us to become more and more of the person we're meant to be, the person we truly are. Because we're raised with particular value systems, and sometimes we outgrow the value systems we were raised with, and sometimes we need to outgrow the value systems we were raised with. When I grew up in the housing projects in Boston, in South Boston, and
Hmm.
my dad's belief is that all good people come from the projects, that poor people take care of each other. Poor people are all walking this world together. Rich people are selfish and greedy, and they don't share. Poor
Mm,
people, you just throw another potato in the pot, and there's always room for one more at the table, right?
mm.
That was a value I grew up with. And he was enraged at the thought that any of us would leave the projects
Yeah,
because we were betraying our own kind, right?
that's right. Yeah.
And that was a value. And it's a value I outgrew. Clearly, I left. I was blessed. I've founded companies. I've owned large homes that my kids could in the basement have ping pong tables and pool tables and dartboards and all kinds of things that we didn't have when I was growing up. And so, yes, we changed the journey. So as you're walking a journey, you're always assessing, who am I? Who am I becoming? And the values that I used to have, some of them will always be with me. Some of them I've outgrown.
Hmm.
And the visions, the dreams I had, I may have achieved them all, and it's time for new dreams. It's time to create a new vision, a new dream for where I'm going in the next stage of my life. And so to me, that's a journey. It's a process of evolving and becoming more and more of who we are. I think who we already are, but we learn to less it out more. We learn to express it more. We learn to become more of who we're meant to be. So if I look at who I was 20 years ago, who I was 40 years ago, she was a really great kid or a really good woman, but my life experiences has taught me so much more. And I've been blessed to travel extensively, to have friends from all over the world, from all different cultures, different religions, different backgrounds. Um, and that changes you. That expands you. It expands your view of the world. What a gift. And so to me, that journey of always evolving is what we're about. And if we don't evolve and we stay in this narrow place that we grew up in, boy, are we missing a whole lot of ourselves that we never get to experience, and a whole lot of the world that we never get to experience.
Yeah. 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 You strike me as a very grateful person. I mean, you've, a number of times just talked about that. Where does that come from?
Gratitude,
Yeah.
just recognizing how blessed I've been. And yeah, I've worked really hard. I mean, I worked really hard to to get where I got, to get out of the projects, to create a company, to create another company, to create a third company. Now, each of those took a lot of work. At the same time, I'm fully aware that lots of people work really hard and don't get those chances to do those things, right? So I feel blessed that I was given an opportunity and grateful to me that I took those opportunities because not everybody takes the opportunities they're provided. So there's the gratitude for the opportunities that were presented for, in that I basically held my nose and jumped in and took that risk and took that chance and did the things that I needed to do to get where I wanted to go. And sometimes they were terrifying, sometimes they were just frightening, and sometimes I had to think about it 4 times before I had the audacity to go for it. But doing it, I just feel blessed. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. We've got a good friend, and he's like he sends text messages every day, just like different things. And it's like,
yeah,
Rick, I'm grateful, I'm blessed, blah, blah, blah. And I absolutely love
yeah,
that. I love that. And it's actually, in some ways, it's really changed, like rewired my brain, to learn to be more grateful about, the little things, having these great conversations is such
right.
a gift, you know?
Miracles happen every day. They truly happen every day if you're willing to see them, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So many people read, well, oh, that was a coincidence, or that was just luck, or that was just no. I think miracles happen every day.
I agree. I agree. Absolutely. So back to the journey real quick. We talked about, and before we got on, we started talking about leadership and personal leadership, and just being intentional about that
Right.
journey and that sort of thing. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I believe every one of us is called to leadership. I don't think any one of us is called to be a follower. We need to know how to follow. If we're in a meeting, let's just say I'm in a meeting with you and a whole bunch of professional football players, baseball players, pick a sport, I don't care. I'm going to sit back and listen because that's your expertise, not mine. So my sitting back and listening doesn't mean I'm playing, poor ignorant follower. It just means I'm here to learn from you because you're the expert in this arena. You're the one
Hmm.
who knows far more than I do here.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, if I see something that shows up, I have absolutely no problem saying, "Excuse me, did you notice what just took place here? Did you notice what happened?" And putting that out there because I'm here to learn and to watch, but I'm also here to contribute with the strengths I have to contribute with. I'm not
Right.
going to pretend I know something I don't. But if there's something I can do to help take this meeting to the next level, I'm going to add that to the table. So it's that humility to know what we don't know, right? To acknowledge that, but also the humility that says, this is what I'm really good at, and I want to bring this to the table. And to me, that's a level of humility that we have gifts, and owning it doesn't make me better than anybody else.
Hmm.
It just means this is my strength, and I want to add that to the table. And so there's owning that I'm a leader in this arena, and let me present that and be of service to you in this way because I know I can serve you this way here. And
Love
you're
that.
serving the way you know how to serve.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's so important. That's so important. I mean, even the idea of really discovering what that superpower is, being humble enough to
Yeah,
to really kind of shed some of those other things that you learned how to do, but are outside of your area of expertise. It's and I'm guessing that is, an important reason, another important reason I should say to really work with a coach. Because I imagine, like you were saying, looking from that 30,000 foot view, I imagine they can really help you see, what you're really good at, what you're really passionate about, and really help
right,
to, you know, own, that vision, but also, where your contributions are going to be best, whether in whatever arena that you're in.
right. And when you can humbly, I mean, because I have my superpowers and you have your superpowers, there may be an overlap in one way, but there's going to be a whole bunch that doesn't overlap. And so that's two folks with two great superpowers coming in to serve. And when you
Yeah.
look at it that way, my superpower isn't better than yours. Yours isn't better than mine. They're different, right? And when I can see that we all have those superpowers, they're just different, then I'm not going to feel superior or inferior because
Yeah.
it's different.
Yes. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all in
Yeah.
this together. And I think we all have that necessity to recognize our superpower
Hmm.
because it's the way in which we make the world a better place. It's the way in which we contribute to this universal connectedness. Because I truly believe we're all in this together. We are all in this together. Nobody is any better or worse than another. The difference is some of us choose to show up and some of us don't.
Interesting. That's
And
interesting.
I believe in that leadership is that we all have that responsibility to show up and bring what our superpower is to the table because the
I
world
agree.
needs it.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I remember as a younger person, being in a room with people that had, similar, quote unquote superpowers, to me, and it was like it was competitive, for a long time. It's just like, oh well, I've
Right,
got to have the biggest brain in the room or whatever. But as I've grown, as you said, I learned that we can be complementary, and then in being complementary, we can actually develop better solutions because each of us are bringing our experience and education and everything else to the
right.
table that is unique to us. So yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
we each have our own. I had a school for 19 years teaching physicians, nurses, occupational therapists, and so forth. A method of
Mhm.
integrative healthcare I created.
Mhm.
And I would say to them, as a 4-year program, when they graduated, you all have, I believe, the best foundation in integrative health you'll ever get anywhere. However, none of you are competing with the other for clients, because each of you is bringing not just this foundation, this education. You're each bringing who you are to the table. And
Yes.
somebody is going to resonate with you, not because you're better, but they're going to resonate with your energy because it's what they're comfortable with. Somebody is not going to resonate with your energy. You remind them of a father they didn't like, or an aunt or an uncle or a school teacher they didn't like. And all of a sudden they don't like you when it has nothing to do with you, but somebody else is going to resonate with you beautifully. So when we look at this, we all have different energies that we put out. That's a byproduct of the journey we've walked, of who we are anyway as we start our journey in conception. But it also becomes how we evolve, how we develop. And when you can see that, people choose us to work with us because they resonate with us in some way. But they're not going to resonate with us unless we show up. So we need to show up so they can see that we're here. And do they or do they not resonate with us? But if we're hiding at home and not talking to a soul, who's going to even know we're here? So it's our responsibility to get out there, let the world know we exist, and trust that those who need us will see us and show up.
I love that. I love that. I've said the same thing. It's just like we have that responsibility, to let people know that we're here. I love that. You have a giveaway for our guests. You want to talk about that? A giveaway?
I do. Yes, I've created about 16 years ago, I created a leadership self-assessment tool. And it was in looking at all the different types of leaders I've worked with, I broke it down into 5 leadership styles. And about 6 months ago or so, we put it into digital format. So it's now in a digital format that people can take and work with and run with. And it really allows you to see the style of leadership. You answer a series of questions, and it allows you to see the style of your leadership and the intrinsic strengths, the vulnerabilities, and the diseases you will be predisposed to based on the way you hold your stress, because each leadership style holds their stress differently. And it's just to support you in recognizing strengths you may not be ready to own,
Hmm.
or vulnerabilities you've been running from because you haven't wanted to see them. Recognize them, because you can recognize those vulnerabilities. You can develop the strengths that support you. Running from self awareness doesn't make us stronger, it just keeps us filled with fear.
Yes. 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 Yes.
When we
How
have the
does someone?
strength to stop, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, how do we access that?
I have a link. You have a link. We can access, put that link out there, and they
Okay.
can get the leadership tool.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with before we call it a wrap?
That life truly is an amazing adventure. I really think it's an amazing adventure. Many of us have been blessed to live many lifetimes in one lifetime. You know, as I have certainly done and lived in different countries and done it. Life is an adventure that's meant to be lived. It's not meant to be survived. And when you truly live your journey, you take the risks that you're presented with. You take that opportunity to become more and more of who you really are. And the more risks we take, the more opportunities to grow we take, the more we get to fall in love with ourselves. And the more we fall in love with ourselves, and I don't say that from an ego place, but from a humble place, the more we fall in love with the person we have chosen to become,
Hmm.
and know that I'm going to learn even more about me. I am going to be more expansive the more life experiences I have. And that means I've got that much more to give to the people I serve.
Wow. Wow.
That
Wow.
it really is an exciting adventure that never ends till the day we go home. I mean, so why not jump in and live it? Why survive this journey without joy? Why survive it without gratitude? When there's so much to be joyful for, there's so much to be grateful for. And the more experiences we have, the more we have to be grateful for, and the more we have to enjoy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
live
Wonderful.
it. Don't survive it. That's an attitude It's not a financial statement. It's not a moral statement. It's an attitude of, I'm really here to live this, and to live it authentically and powerfully.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Dorothy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed spending time with you. What a gift you are.
Thank you. Bye, likewise. Folks, thanks for listening or watching another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll see you next time.